Hello Earth lovers and nature seekers, welcome to another Miskayani video. My name is Karen. I am a Pampamesayoq, an Andean shaman who's been trained by the Keros who live high in the Andes mountains of Peru. And because I've been going through many rites of my own over the last years, especially in the last few months, my teacher keeps telling me it's time, and the planet needs this badly, and gives them to me and tells me to get these out there, right? It's going to help people to transform. And as I discover what a treasure these are at a level I've never experienced before, I felt it was time for me to make a video about it and share it with you. Because as Westerners, of course, we use the word rites. We talk about rites of passage and all kinds of things, but I'm not sure if anybody really understands what rites are about, at least in the Andean medicine, in the world of nature. Yes, so I would like to talk about that today. If you haven't seen a video and this topic fascinates you from this Miskayani channel, please subscribe below, click the like, and as soon as a new one comes out, roughly every 2 weeks, then we will send it to you. So let's talk about rites and consciousness and Andean medicine, how it all fits together. And where I like to start sharing this with my clients is that I say to people, you know, we don't know about this in the West, but we have 3 power centers, places where we can build our inner power as human beings. So the power of the heart, yes, the power of the mind, the higher intelligence of the mind, and of course the power of our physical action, right, of our body, our being grounded in this world and putting our power into action. So when we work with the 3 powers, we work with the head, the heart, and the body, the action of who we are as human beings. And when we start working with rites, it's not something our head is necessarily going to always understand. In fact, very seldom our heads understand it. It's more of a heart process, and it's something that happens in the body as we integrate it. And these 2 parts of us really do a lot of work. And so our minds do not always understand it, but I'm going to try and explain what rites are about so that you have more of an understanding from a higher intellectual place, yes? So, you know, the Andean cosmovision, it falls outside of our understanding. You know, in the Western world, we understand consciousness as 2 things. Either consciousness that is in our nervous system that brings us back to consciousness when we get knocked out. Yeah, or consciousness as being a soul, a transcendent energy, a transcendent soul that lives within our physical vessel. Yes, so we see them very separate. Whereas, you know, in the Andean world, there is no separation at all. They see consciousness as something that is part of the energetic structure that our material world is made of. It is all weaved into each other. It is one. There is no separation. So when we think of nature beings or mountains, and we learn that there is a nature being, right? We think about, how can I put this? It's not that the mountains have a consciousness in it, or that the wind has a separate consciousness in it. Yes, it's not separate, it's one. To the Andeans, it is all one. Whether it's the wind, whether it's the earth, whether it's the mountains, yeah. This is one consciousness that flows through it, and we are part of that, and of course we have forgotten that. So as Pampamesayoqs, you know, when you're called to do a certain rite, or you want to connect with nature in a certain way, and you are going to have a rite, you will go to a Pampamesayoq, like me, all right? A Pampamesayoq is an Andean shaman that's had initiations and rites and has built all these relationships with all the different aspects of natures and frequencies that are within this world of consciousness that we live in. Yes? So when you go to a the Pampamesayoq, they introduce and they begin to weave you and your system and your energy together with these nature beings. Yes? It gets weaved into your energy, weaved into your whole energetic system, yes, into your reality, so that you can start to build an awareness and an understanding from within you of what that is like. Now, our minds do not always understand this process, but you have experiences. When I receive them, I definitely have things that happen in my reality, but also from within myself that starts to shift, or I have insights into places where I might have been blocked or didn't have understanding, and awareness starts to open up in me, right? And why? Because when we bring these beautiful energies in from nature beings through rites, it opens up our awareness to the consciousness that they carry. And of course, nature is very, very pure, right? It's, we have our egos and we carry a lot of hucha and a lot of heavy stuff, which affects our energy levels. Nature doesn't have that. It's incredibly pure, right? So when we open up and a pampa weaves this through our system for us, we start to take in this higher level of consciousness, and it starts to become one with us. Yes? It opens our awareness beyond our minds. It supports us to listen to our hearts, and it opens up our senses. We start to see and hear beyond what the mind is capable of. We feel sensations in our bodies, right? And at the same time, any frequency that does not fit into that higher level of consciousness, all right, what we call hucha, very, very heavy, dense energy, has to start shifting, because it can't exist in your system when there's also very high consciousness. It has to shift. And so what happens is we start to release all that we don't need. We start letting go all the heavier energy, the heavier hucha that we might be carrying. And as that releases, there is a light behind it, right? Our true essence of who we are is able to come forward and to speak and express itself, and we can hear it within us. Yes? It's like we remember the language of who we are and we find the words for it. Yes? And we become one with nature, because now we're connected. Our energy is becoming one because I'm raising my frequency to meet that. I am one with it. Yes? So it brings a lot of belonging and remembering and connection with nature. Now, of course, every nature being has its own frequency. Just like we're all humans, but we all have our own unique expression of our soul. Yes? Nature beings each have their own frequency too. So, for example, when we work with the Nustakarpais, which are the rites of the goddesses, the princesses of all the elements, for example, right? When we interact with them and we take in that frequency, each one brings its signature to support us to grow. So as we work with the Nusta of water, yes, she has a very different function to, say, the element of wind. Yes, their frequency and their consciousness supports us to explore a different aspect of our being. And so they have different impacts on us, and they help us to grow in different ways. Now, of course, they help us to release on all levels, whether it's your physical body that might be carrying heaviness and illness, whether it's emotional blockage, whether it's a block in the mind of not getting our heads out the way, or trying to understand something on a cognitive level, or even spiritually or energetically. Yes, they'll work with all of those levels and help there to be release, so you can bring these higher levels of consciousness in. Yes, so rites can be given in groups, right? So like all the Nustakarpais, which are the seven rites, the goddesses of the Andes, yes, of nature. Yeah, because they're elements, they come together as a set. And then you've got others that work with each other. So you'll get a set of rites, but they actually will interact with each other to take you forward somewhere. And some of them you can receive on their own. So some of them you can have on your own, but also even receiving them. Sometimes it's some of them work better when you're in a group to download into the group, and some of them when you're on individuals, and therefore, you know, people can come to me for private sessions and have a rite at a time, or for whatever they might need at the time, right? So it's like having a healing session, a rite of a nature being maybe called in to help someone to heal, right? Or you can do a workshop where there's this whole set that's put together, yes? And then, of course, there are reasons why some of them are connected. So, for example, the Kutakuna, who are the Pleiadian rites. Now, you have to understand the frequency of the stars is a whole other level of consciousness compared to what is on our physical planet, yes? It's a very, very high level of consciousness. So they come together as a set. But also they bring an incredibly high level of consciousness, and it's nice to do them together, whether it's once a week over a few months or whatever it might be. But it's nice to welcome it into your system so that your body can, you know, start to absorb and become weaved in together with it. Yeah. You know, because as you bring these in, they're going to grow your light. They're going to grow your life force. Yes. And they're going to grow your power. Yes, all these powers. Yes, I talked about the power centers, but we have many more powers that we as Westerners generally have forgotten about. Yes, so they help you to return to yourself. It helps you to find the true expression of who you are, right? To help you release whatever's blocking you finding your true expression, your pure light of who you are as a soul. Yes. So of course when we do this, it's really good to have grounding. Yeah, it's what I love, as you know from the other videos, if you've watched them, I often talk about being grounded while we do this. This is not some airy-fairy, go away, be out of the body somewhere else while we do this. That's not what we're here for. We're here to grow power within us, to become enlightened in our bodies, in this reality. Yes? So having groundedness is very, very important. And I'm not talking about just rooting on the day. I'm talking about having tools and skills and our feet on the ground, having experienced nature as we go into these rites. I mean, this is why the Pachamama workshop, why I put it, one of the reasons I put it together is people need tools as they go forward. We start to release a lot of hucha. It's nice to know how to work with that once. You know, when you get into rites and the hucha comes up and you don't have these tools, you've got to just be with it. And, you know, people do survive that, of course. But the Pachamama workshop I put together because you get a lot of tools. You can really, really take care of yourself while you go through these rites. Yes, it helps it to be more graceful and for it to land in a more smoother way in your body and for you to grow and transform way beyond what you think is possible. So, if you're a newcomer and you know you're curious about the rites and you want to get involved, if you have a look on my website miskayani.com, I'll put the link in the box below. If you go to my website, there are you'll see all different sets of rites. You'll see the Pachamama workshop is there. But when it comes to the rites, if you're a beginner, a good place to start is to work with the elements. You know, the elements within workshops. There's 2 of them. So you get to meet the earth, the air, the water, the fire. Yes, really nice way in because your mind already has some understanding of what those elements are when you meet the beings. There's also the Nustakarpais. The Nustakarpais are beautiful. You know, they're very feminine, and no matter what sex we are, it brings our feminine energies into balance in us and welcome these nurturing, supportive, just exquisite goddess energies to interact with us and become one with us again. Yes. So the Nistakarpais and any of the elements workshops are a fantastic place to start once you've done the Pachamama workshop. And then after that, there's all these beautiful star rites, the Milky Way, the Pleiades, all these groups that bring such a high consciousness and help us to transform way beyond what we think is possible, and help us to clear out our ancestral lines, help us to clear all the heavy hucha. And at this time on the planet, with everything that is going on, it helps us to cope with the present as well as give us tools for the future, and helps us to become the light that we are trying to be in the world.